Jenna Shin was a extremely encouraging and optimistic presence. I met her through church. She regularly served our small group, and I was blessed to have this conversation. At the time of the recording, she was discouraged with her medical school applications, but now she has enrolled as a medical student. Through the editing process of this podcast, I was amazed at the faith that this woman has, and I was honored, and I really will miss her presence in our community. I got to experience how her faith only was strengthened through this season of uncertainty in her life, and it makes me want to apply that lesson and strive more in my own faith. Friends, please enjoy this interview with Jenna Shin, future doctor. Okay, the first inaugural ASMR episode, Jenna Shin. Do you hear this? That's ASMR. It sounds better than it sounds in real life. Yeah. So what I noticed is that in church, so I had dinner with a brother, and then I was like, dude, I feel like I don't really belong in church. And then he's like, why? I'm like, because I feel like I'm too, I do too much.
Like what?
I think I just say what's on my mind a little bit too much. And I feel like it's a little jolting sometimes to people. And then he was like, is it mostly women that you notice that seem that way to you? I'm like, I think so. And then he was like, don't worry about that. I'm like, why? And he's like, so there's this thing called the JCA freeze. Have you heard of that?
I think I've heard the term, but I don't really know what it is.
Oh, actually? Okay. So what he said was basically in the past in JCA, there was this trend of new people, usually men, just coming into church and hitting on the women. And then after a while, the women started doing this thing called JCA freeze, which is they just stop responding or stop if it's online, they'll stop responding, which makes sense. If I were a woman, I'd probably do the same thing if a new guy that I don't know keeps on trying to talk to me. I think mostly because it's really hard to tell what their intentions are. And it's potentially dangerous, right?
Yeah.
But oh shoot.
Or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If they're not looking for a relationship.
Yeah. So yeah, I think after I learned that, it made a lot more sense to me. So I feel like I'm trying to lean more into female friendships with. Oh frick! This is very brittle.
Oh no!
It's okay.
Shoot! No.
It's an airplane fork.
Wait, there's the cafe is right when we came downstairs. Do you want to grab another?
I may, but I think this is fine for now because the top is very shallow.
Oh my gosh!
And I don't plan on eating that much because I had a really late lunch.
Oh, okay.
These are 100% recyclable.
And not strong.
Yeah, 100% renewable.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah, it's cool though. It's a cool initiative. Okay, so since you are a journey female, I will say, because I feel like this is my moment to, what is it? What's it called when you're on the podium, defending yourself?
I don't know, you're on the soapbox?
So, yeah, soapbox. Yeah. Soapbox crusade or something like that. So I feel like in a similar way to Kwan Hee from Singles Inferno, it's I feel like sometimes my mindset was faster paced than the culture at Journey, especially with regards to dating and getting to know people. I feel because I have so much self-belief that I am a quality person, I'm not afraid to just speak what's on my mind. And I also think that it's the most forthcoming or the most honest way to approach something such as attraction to a female, because I feel it's kind of deceptive to befriend a girl if you already know that you're attracted to her and you plan on asking her out way down the line. Personally, I feel it's kind of starting a friendship from a basis of untruth.
Basis of what?
Basis of untruth, from the beginning. I will say though that in my opinion, if a guy is not attractive, he's kind of forced to do that, right?
like to kind of like up his chances of getting her attention in a sense.
What do you mean, like forced? Forced
Like-
to do what?
Like forced to kind of like befriend her and get to know her before like asking her out.
Whereas if they're attractive, they don't have to do that?
I feel like I don't know about in Journey community, but I feel like attractive people get away with a bit more, like in general.
Like being forward.
But okay, so I will say like when I hung out with the brother and we talked about like the JCA freeze, yeah, like I asked him, what does he think about like Singles Inferno Guan He's strategy, which is he basically runs the gauntlet, so to speak. Like he tries to date everyone, and then from the actual like communication climate, he tries to pick the person who's most compatible with him. And I was like, what do you think about doing that? And then he was like, no, I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Then I was like, but then isn't it like kind of bad? Like, because like I feel like what a church ideally wants, especially with members that stay in the community for a long time, is the church wants really stable, very satisfying relationships, like marriages. And I feel like especially in a community when you're spending a lot of quality time around other people, it's very easy for you to like start comparing. Like, oh, this person's wife is so supportive and you're not, or whatever. And I feel like that kind of comparison dynamic can actually undermine stable relationships unless you have a lot of faith in your compatibility and your like devotion to each other.
So you think that this gauntlet approach is so that you can check for compatibility?
Yeah, I think the theory of it is like, I don't want to think that I picked someone who is a really good fit for me, only to realize like 5-10 years later, I finally meet this other woman who just happened to be on the other side of the church, like for all those years. And then I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is my soulmate. What have I done or whatever, you know? Because there was a podcast about like a pastor whose wife like cheated on him with a guy in the congregation. I haven't found it, but a friend told me or like showed me a snippet, like a short. I was like, that is crazy. Like I can't imagine like being either person in that relationship. So anyway, this is like very like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is like top of the top, you know? Like if you're struggling to have like food and shelter, you're not thinking about this kind of a thing. But I think when basic needs get taken care of, unfortunately, these temptations get very strong. So it's like something I'm definitely wrestling through. But I will not run the gauntlet. I asked my friend what satisfying alternatives there might be. And he's like, you know, if you hang out in group settings, you don't need like dedicated one-on-one time with someone to see how they react to like disappointment.
Yeah.
Like if they get frustrated in a board game, how do they deal with it, you know? Are they like, do they snap at other people? Or like if they, and there's also like people who snap at other people in like a funny way. Like you can tell they're not actually like getting super defensive.
Yeah.
But some people would just like get really defensive and take it way too far and like ruin the vibe kind of a thing. And I think that's a sign of immaturity. And like it's a game. Bro, it's only a game. No need to get hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, you know, there was a lot of learning and growth even in the last couple of weeks.
That's
but,
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
You're not going to release
this is not going to be released. Okay.
Yeah. I was thinking about a lot of things because there was a lot of different things you mentioned.
Wonderful. Yeah,
But-
sorry I talked so much.
No. It was
I hope
good.
you can still remember.
But I guess I can respond to why the gauntlet approach sucks.
Okay. Yeah, tear me apart. I need to be humbled.
No. It's not directed towards you. It's just in
The
general. I think it's just we're so easily like convinced by this world that like that's like the right way. I think like watching Singles Inferno, yes, of course it's entertaining, but I think I realized at certain points I had to kind of guard my heart. Like, remember, this is not the right approach to the relationship that is fully satisfying. Because like, okay, I've been reading a book called The Meaning of Marriage. I'm only on like chapter
Keller,
3.
right?
Yeah, so don't like, don't think I'm like an expert on it yet, but like, I would say like even just the first 2 chapters, I took away a lot of good things.
Are you guys talking about it?
Huh?
Are you guys talking about it?
Talking about what?
Marriage.
Oh, Kevin and I mean, we've talked about it at different points, just like in general, like
It's probably hard with
what it
the
is.
continuing
Yeah, but like
education and all
it's
that.
hard to make the immediate next decision
Uh-huh.
from where we are because we're both applying for schools.
Right.
But for the sake of even like dating relationships, I think it's like what I realize is like dating for me at least like is to help figure out if that person is who you want to marry, right? And it might not be like that for everybody, but like I think most people do crave things that last forever, right?
Yeah.
And so out of that desire, like this like marriage is like a covenant. It's a commitment to that person to like spend the rest of your life with them and to love them. And I think thinking about how marriage is like the role model of marriage, I guess, is Jesus and the church. So like the way Jesus loves the church, the husband ought to love the wife. And the way that the church submits to Jesus, the wife should submit to the husband. And so like that's kind of like where I guess like my thoughts come from of like and that's like the foundation of like what marriage I think is. And then so with that kind of approach, if I look at the way that Jesus chose to love the church, it wasn't because we were the most compatible people that he could love. He just chose to love us despite like our shortcomings, our flaws and sins. Like we're pretty like crappy people. We all have different weaknesses, and Jesus could have like parsed through and decided, oh, this person is compatible with me, so I'll love this person. This person, like that's how he could have like saved us, right? If he took that gauntlet approach, you know.
There would be no one left.
Yeah, there would be no one left because all have fallen short and everyone sins. Everyone has something that they struggle with and they messed up in, but Jesus chose to love us beyond that. But the tricky thing I think with dating is that you didn't make that commitment yet. So you're not like obligated, or you haven't also committed to loving someone no matter what, right? So there is kind of like this like freedom, I guess, of like
Looking elsewhere.
yeah,
Unfortunately.
yeah, kind of. But it's still like I guess like or like even before dating, right? When you're just like interested or like trying to get to the point of saying like let's date. And that's like I think it's more intentional to date someone, right? I do think it's an exclusive thing for that because it provides like a safe space to get to know that person without thinking about, oh my gosh, they're like measuring me and like they're trying to see like what are my strengths and weaknesses, and then like if I don't make the cut then it's over. Like it's not like that. I think so the things I've been talking about like I'm fine with sharing, but I think because of that, like if your goal, at least for me, like if my goal is to ultimately like love this person, I can't like there's not much like desire for me to like look for all the bad things that they've done or like all the ways that they fall short of like my perfect standard or whatever, you know. So I think
What is your perfect standard?
I don't know if I really have that. Like, of course, like if I look at something like and like it's like this person or this person, like I can probably pick out. No, heck no. But
It's one week, isn't it?
no, but I think that like losing my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Like
I think
the perfect
just
standard.
I guess like the foundation for me. Foundation is that this person and I are on the same page in terms of our first and foremost goal in life, which is to love God.
Did you always subconsciously have that imagery of like the husband should die for the wife in the way that Christ dies for the church and the wife should submit? Like that imagery, was that always there even before you started studying it specifically in the book?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it wasn't just from the book. I would say the first time I really thought about it was my junior year of college. I was in an all women's, like all girls, like family group, which is like a Bible study group that meets weekly, and like we also hang out and stuff. And so in that all girls family group, we talked about the passage where it says, wives, submit to your husbands. And that's often brought up as a controversial passage because of like feminism and like, you know, like why should women submit to men? Like that kind of things. So actually when I was preparing for it with like, I was like the helping host of the family group, but there was a head host who was like leading me. But as we were preparing, we were kind of worried like, oh, I wonder like what points people will bring. But we ended up having a really good discussion actually. I think because people came with like a willingness to listen and or like to each other and to like kind of humble ourselves, right? Because like, yeah, something I realized from reading that Bible passage was that like we make such a big deal out of how women are told to submit in that passage, but then we don't look at what is asked of the husband too. Like men are asked to love like Christ did, right? Like to the extent that you would die for them, right? To love and that's not easy. Like no, like I don't know, like people can't just like out of nowhere like love someone next to them to that extent, right? Like a stranger, essentially, right? Because you're not even family with them. I think like with family, I can like confidently say like, oh yeah, I would die for them, right? But I don't think with like somebody I meet to just like and got to know deeply, like I don't know, like I think that's pretty. Yeah, it's a huge thing to ask for too of the men. So I think with that, and I think the fear behind like why people don't like that passage, like with submission, is that, oh, if I submit, then I'm going to lose my autonomy. I'm going to like be abused and like I'm going to be hurt, right? But that's only if that man is the person who chooses to abuse that kind of committed relationship, right? Mm-hmm. But Jesus is perfect and he loves us perfectly and he is someone we can trust. So that like that's why the church is okay with like submitting to Jesus, right? And trying to follow Jesus. So in the same way, if the man is trying to model themselves to be like Jesus, to show grace and love and kindness and patience and all these things that he should be, then there would actually be no like issues. Yeah. Like all the things that the women fear about in a marriage, it would be gone.
You
right?
can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
in the midst of a person who will not abuse it.
Yeah. Right. So I think the responsibility is kind of shared between both men and women to like love one another and to, you know, and to honor that relationship. Like, it's not like the men are winning over the women just because the women are told to submit to men, you know. It's a very, like, complementary, harmonious relationship that Jesus already exemplified with the church. So, yeah, if anything, like, Jesus is losing the part of the deal by dealing with us who's always messing up, you know. So, yeah.
Losing the part of the deal doesn't mean that we settle and then just stay devoted. It's like
if you're married, is that what you're like within the marriage relationship? Is that what you're talking about?
Like the process of getting married.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, do you mean like people should be more alert and like picky in a sense?
Yeah, people need to be very discerning about what traits can last 40 years, 50 years. You know, I think I learned. Okay, this is not going to the podcast. I think I kind of learned that the hard way.
I think something else I read from that book, The Meaning of Marriage, was Tim Keller said his wife has been married to, like, I don't remember the exact number, but he said, like, around nine different people. And that, like, shocked me, right? What? I was like, what are you talking about? But she was married to one man, but the 9 different people is him. Because he was talking about how many times he's changed over the course of his life that they've been married or dating, right? Every stage of life, people are always changing, right? So then, yeah, essentially, like, his wife had to, like, be in a relationship with 9 different people.
Dang, that's tough.
Does that make sense? But yeah, I don't think that's so, like, out of the ordinary. Like, I think most people do change over the course of their life. Like, wouldn't you say, like, when you were in college, like
Oh.
it's so different from who you are now.
Oh my god.
So if somebody was dating you in college and then they were still
Get
dating
out.
you to this point, they probably would have met like 5 different versions of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
So because of that, because we are changing, I think that's why marriage is, yeah, it does take a lot of commitment.
But that's also why. How should I phrase this? In a way, that's also why I think men should run the gauntlet.
Why?
Because I would not be who I am today if I didn't have experiences like with women.
Mm-hmm.
You know, unfortunately, I feel like it's very damaging for me to go through those person changes in a marriage. Like I would hate to have a woman stuck with me, legally binding, mutually assured destruction, and then like witness that trial and error. I would rather like have some kind of grasp over my different cringe years beforehand, and then have like a slightly less bumpier marriage. Because I think the process of her, you know, being married to those different forms of me, it can potentially have bad effects on her mental health, on the kids, etc. So it's difficult. I get what he's saying in the book, but I feel like if people are not given a chance to date, and you get married too early without even having the opportunity to, you know, run into issues and adapt and evolve as people, it's inevitable that that's going to happen in the context of the marriage. But maybe I'm a little bit naive in this, and that like maybe it's okay to just make mistakes in the context of marriage. Maybe there's something endearing about that. Like this might be my whole perfectionist like tendency of like you know, before I even start this commitment, I have to be like so worked out. I don't think that that's super biblical, because people used to get married super early. You know, I'm sure like for example, I learned a philosophy of not being envious through like really bad college experiences. Basically, like a girl that I was like in this not relationship, but like I guess like situationship type of thing. She started like seeing another guy, and then like we didn't have exclusivity, so it wasn't right for me to feel angry, but I did. And I think through that, unfortunately, that like, you know, emotionally damaging experience, I learned how important it is to me to have exclusivity. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so I feel like now I've kind of adopted her stance of like not being jealous, because I think we had a conversation where I was like, what if I did the same thing to you? Would you feel bad? She was like, no, I wouldn't care. Because I think, you know, from the very beginning, she was almost like using me in a similar sense that I was wanting to use her. But I think because she was a lot like smarter and like had a lot more vision overall, she was like genuinely less interested in me. And so like her genuine position was like, I really don't care what you do. Like, if we're not exclusive, that is the expectation. And so I think what I learned through that, like I think I like ripped out a wholesome lesson out of like a really messed up situation, which is like, if the expectation isn't there to be exclusive, you have no right to be like possessive of someone else, you know? And so I think, you know, if I were to be dating someone and I'm trying to keep my options open and I'm trying to like play the gauntlet, whatever, if she all of a sudden gets deeper in a relationship with someone else and they become exclusive, I don't really have a right to get upset about that, because I had a chance to like establish that expectation with her and I didn't go for it. And I don't think a woman would want like a flaky guy like that. So yeah, I learned that like the envy, all that stuff is like, it's not really worth it to have that with someone who doesn't want to be with you. But anyway, like that lesson, I don't think I could have learned it unless I had those experiences with a woman. And I feel like if church culture on dating is very conservative, I think it can force people to seek outside of the church to have access to those opportunities to like date and grow. But again, I think I'm very focused on like getting to a certain competency before marrying, and I don't know that that's biblical. Like I think the biblical thing is like, it's even okay to marry when you're incompetent, and like fumble together. Because at least you look back like 10, I have a friend who married at 18. And we're, 10 years later, he has a 5-year-old daughter. They probably look back and are like, we had no idea what we were doing. We didn't even have careers yet. Now he's like a real estate whiz, traveling the world with his wife. They're, flipping houses together. I think they're retired already at 28, which is ridiculous. And it's like, I'm sure they had really like bumpy road along the way, but at least they can look back and be like, I shared those experiences with you. And they're also Christian, so I'm sure that, they were trying to live a biblical marriage. So anyway, interesting. Different approaches in life, and I don't really know what is right, but I personally will not do the gauntlet after my firsthand experiences. There's plenty of insightful interactions one can have in a group setting. Even if it's like less efficient than dating, but it's there.
Yeah, I think you can definitely tell the character of a person in a group setting. Like, whereas on a date, they're showing their best self.
Yeah, that too.
And it's packaged. So, yeah, if like what you're looking for is also like you want to really figure that person out, I think like it would be helpful to see them in a group setting. Yeah, for sure.
But do you ever feel like people put up more front in a group setting?
No, I think people can be shyer and like more withdrawn, like if they're like introverted or something. But if it's like a smaller group, even like the quieter people have more space to talk. Even like a group of 3 or 4, let's say, like then like they don't really stay silent in that kind of context, Like it's not like it's very different from like a large group setting. But kind of like what you said, like when they play board games and things like that, like I think from our cabin trip with our family group, like you could see people's personalities pop out when we played code names. Yeah. Or like Catan. Yeah. Different games. Yeah.
Speaking of Catan, would you say you're a competitive person? Because
yeah,
what I know of you is there was that one comeback game in tennis. I played against you in tennis. You're very. I remember I was like whipping these forehands at you, and I started feeling bad doing that to a lady. But then you started whipping them back at me, and then I was like, "What are we doing? Trying to kill each other?" I thought we were just volleying. You're like, "Why not both?" or something like that. So I could tell you're not afraid to like go hard at something, especially competition. So I respect that. But I also heard that you're super into Catan, and then at our FG cabin trip. Family group cabin trip. I noticed that when we were on the same team in Battleship, you had a very like strategic approach to like maximize the info from a guest. Yeah. So I guess like, are you competitive? And I guess where did it start?
Yes, I'm competitive. I don't know where that came from, but I think there's different types of being competitive. Like how it manifests is different. I don't think I've ever really gotten super angry or sad about like winning or losing something. Like, and I think like there's plenty of people who do, like that come out of a game or like a match, and like, but I think I'm like I don't really get emotional over those things. I think I'm just like fixated on the next thing to do, which is like, okay, get better. Like I need to play again or something. Like I think that's what gets me hooked on like Catan or like tennis. I think like what I like about those things is that it's like I can't blame anyone else but myself if I lose, Like it was like all the choices that I made and like the effort that I put in,
Yeah, I guess Catan is very clean in the logical steps you can take.
So like in tennis too, like I like playing singles a lot better than doubles because I don't like letting my partner down, and like I don't like depending on them. I don't like kind of like guessing around like am I gonna get it, or are you gonna get it, that kind of thing. I just want to be like fully just in my own like headspace and like go for everything I can. And then it's like if I give it my all, like I have no regrets, So yeah, I think
in competitive gaming, that's called the solo carry mentality. It's like it's all me. If we win or lose, it's all me.
Yeah.
I think so. My background competing is League of Legends. What I learned about that is inevitably life will put you in like group projects, in classes, or it'll put you, you'll have coworkers one day, and just it's inevitable to rub shoulders with people in life. And so there will constantly be disturbances to like our perfect strategy, plan, etc. I think part of the art of life is knowing how to be firm, seeing certain things take place, and also when to step back and just kind of let the team figure things out. Because I'm sure like the many dictators of the world really want their way, and the overall perception of them is not great. Even if they are very smart and very logically structured with the plan, I think that anytime there is a plan that's formed in the mind of an individual human, there are other groups that might be not getting what they want. But that's a very tough topic that I don't really want to get into because I'm not an expert on it. The idea of group rights and like legislation, maybe. Because, laws kind of began from, we were all farmers at one point, and then I guess someone jumped the fence and took the crops off neighbor farmer, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, you can't do that. This is mine, and then there had to be some kind of like punishment for improper behavior like that. So I guess all that evolved to modern legislation with all this structure behind it, but way out of my realm. But yeah, okay, that's actually really neat to hear you say, because I think, I have had a history of being the person who gets upset in competitive scenarios, and I think the reason why I used to get upset is because I would lose perspective. Like, there is always this perspective that we can return to, which is like we're all humans trying to make it in the world, and that's the healthy perspective where it's like it's just a game and you can get better, and that's kind of like where you're rooted, which is really good. But yeah, as someone who has gotten upset in the past, it's because I get way too in the details of the game, and I see the stakes as like way higher than they actually are. And there's probably some aspect of like pride that's in there. I think some games are inherently like a lot more costly to like one's ego, pride. League of Legends, I think, is a huge one. Like, I don't know if you've heard your friends say that the community is kind of toxic.
No, I don't really know. I'm not too familiar.
I think it's because the games can last up to 45 minutes at a time, and since it's online and anonymous, there's this issue of like if your team is not doing well, sometimes people would just log off, and then it becomes like a 4v5 game, and obviously you know what's going to happen when that happens. And then like everyone else who got shafted by that person leaving will feel really bitter that the 45 minutes of their life is gone. And then sometimes that'll be like, oh, I have to make that up with another game. And then you might encounter another toxic behavior. So that's
why can't they also leave?
Actually, I think they rolled out some policies where it's like, oh, you have a leaver. The team, if everyone votes to leave, then you can just leave, like cut it short, which is really good, actually. I think there was a Korean lady for Riot Games who made that policy happen, which was like, I think that helped a lot, actually. Because there was a lot of bitterness that came from the wasted time. And it's cool that it's a vote, because sometimes those 4 people are so skilled that they'll end up beating the other 5. So it gives you the option of not just like automatically leaving the game. But yeah, like the idea that there is this perspective that you can come back to, like there's this healthy reality. One thing that I'm like kind of worried about is like the idea of metaverse games. Because basically it's like you can play games, but then you can put like real money as a stake, and I feel like that will make a lot of people lose perspective of games being fun, because like anytime like money gets tied to things, it's like that can be your life. Like winning that game can be your life, and if there's something that seems like unfair, or like if you're disturbed and your original optimal performance was like messed with, I think that can really like mess with people's mentality, etc. So that is something a bit concerning. I hope we can keep games as games and not that serious. But the other thing about board games is I personally struggle to pick up new board games. Like when people are explaining the rules, I tend to zone out or like start getting sleepy. Do you feel like having played so many games of Catan, you've kind of like, there are like certain pieces that you look for when you're learning a new game, and so you're able to be engaged and like pick up new games a little quicker, like transferable skills maybe?
I don't know. I don't think I've never been obsessed with board games like I have with Catan. So, yeah, I think it's the first of its own kind. Like, there's definitely been like mobile app games, things like that I've been hooked on, but yeah, not like this, I think. Yeah.
So for someone who has only played one game of Catan where he built a ring around the desert and had no resources for the whole game, how would you explain the thrill of this game?
They just built like 6 roads around the desert.
Yeah.
And like they put like their settlements on the desert. How do I explain
It was me.
the thrill? Why did you build a desert? It's okay. We all start from somewhere.
Well, basically, I was like feeling it out as I went. I think my idea was like if I got the central hub, then I could branch out everywhere. But I didn't realize that like
because the desert's the center.
But I didn't realize that like in the time that I would start branching out, other people would already have like thriving cities.
Yeah, right.
So I leaned into this like if you don't give me free things, then you're a jerk. And then like it was like a weird strategy where it's like help the helpless guy in the desert.
Interesting. I think it's just for Catan, it's like you do want to build where you can get the most amount of resources. So definitely would not start on a desert like when you place your first settlement. But like, I don't know. I guess like I've never really thought about it as like, why is it so fun? Or like, or I guess like certain things I realize about Catan is like you can get really good at it, but because you roll the dice, there is still a component of chance. So you can play your best game, but you might still lose because of chance, you know?
And you like that?
So I think that's good because it's like, that's kind of how our life is. like it's not like everything is so predetermined that whoever does the best is gonna win everything. You know, sometimes you just get lucky. It's just like, yeah.
And you like that.
Well, I don't know if I like that, but it's like that's what we are presented with. So I think like playing a game where it like resembles reality in a sense, like it's like, oh, but even despite that, if I do develop the best strategy, the outcome of me winning does increase, right? So I guess like that could be similar to in like real life, like if you really give it your all and then like learn how to do like the thing that you enjoy doing or like what you're good at like the most, right? Then like even if these like unexpected things happen, like you'll be able to endure it and the chances of you succeeding in it will be greater. Ooh. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's a really good mentality actually.
Yeah. Like right now, it's been a really tiring process, but I've been applying for medical schools. But I think like, yeah, I think maybe something I take away from Catan maybe could be that like if I do actually study like as hard as I can and like learn as much as I can, then even if, because like people's health outcomes, that's very random, right? That's not in our control, right? But if a doctor or, you know, like when a medical student studies like as much as they can and try to become the best doctor by preparing and like strategizing and like playing the game over and over again, right? Then like the chances of that patient that you meet in the future, them becoming healed does increase, right? Yeah. So I think it does carry over. Like, yeah, I think I don't, like games like chess, right? That's not random. It's like pretty predetermined. And like for people who have like mastered it, like know the best moves, it sucks. Like I don't like playing with them, you know? Yeah, like you can never really catch up to them. But I think like games like Catan, it gives like beginners a chance to also get to see what it is, right? And then like as they see that they enjoy it, they also have this like new goal of like, oh, I want to get better. And I love seeing that too in other people when they enjoy it as much as I do.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And like, I think like, I guess I don't know what the equivalent word in Korean. There's a word called like ashium, and ashium is like when you I wish it could have been like this. Like, oh man, like, and like I think like the one feeling I have towards like certain people or like when we played Catan is like, oh, I wish they would have like I wish they would be able to see that this game isn't the end, you know? Like to not like lose their head over that game.
Wow.
Because like you can do better. Like you learned this game way more. Like you learned something that you can play a way better game the next game, right? And there's always that hope to keep trying.
Yeah.
And like I think like yeah, so I think like yeah, I do enjoy playing with people who can see that and don't really like lose their heads over the games and just like work on.
Yeah, we're all.
Oh yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah.
We're all learning as we go.
Right.
Wow, that's beautiful. Speaking of med school,
Yeah.
apps, how do you think you went from like? Did you ever experience like some extent of imposter syndrome? Let's say you saw like other applicants who were like stacked, like their resumes are like 4.0 and like all these experiences like firsthand or like mom, dad, or surgeons or whatever. Do you ever go from like, oh, you know, I'll never stack up to them to like eventually you start to see your own value and like you start to like, sell yourself more on those apps?
I mean, yeah, there are definitely points of like feeling imposter syndrome, but like I don't know. I guess like for me, there's an entrance test that you need to take called the MCAT, and I think that was like the hardest thing for me. And because I am still in the process of like hearing back and things like that. If I don't get in like this application cycle, then my first thing to work on, I think for me, is the test. Like I think that was like my weakest point. So I guess in that sense, like that would be something I like see myself like comparing to others, right? And wishing like I did better or I could do better. But I think in like other things, I guess like seeing people's past experiences of applying and getting into schools, it felt so random. Like it didn't make sense because like some of the smartest people I knew, like most hardworking, like they had like perfect grades, like they didn't get in. And so like I think I just realized from that, oh, it's not all so straightforward as it seems, you know? And like yeah, like I guess like from the things I've read, it does kind of seem like they, you know, are like looking for a certain type of personality to fit with their school and things like that too, or like values, like what they care about, if it's like community service or like caring for a certain type of populations, like the homeless or like the underserved populations. So things like that, they might be looking for very nuanced things, but like, it's not like I got into any schools yet, so I can't say I've, like, fully mastered the process or anything. But that's just, like, the gist of what I've heard. And, yeah, so I don't think because it is kind of random in that sense, like, it's not as much a thing where I can't, like, exactly compare myself to other people besides the test scores, you know? Like, experiences are kind of like... It's like apples and bananas. They're just oranges. Apples, oranges. They're just two different things to compare, you know? Some people like apples, some people like oranges, you know? But they're just different.
You never know which admissions counselor is going to be reading your app. All those other factors.
Yeah, and like, oh my gosh, like the other day, like I got my second rejection email and like it said in the email, like, oh, out of like 15,000 applicants we only got to accept 130. So
you're like, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, no, looking at that, I was like, wow. Honestly, but like I feel so bad for the admissions officers because they have to read through like even for me. I mean, yeah, they're supposed to read from cover to cover and gosh. I think just for me, it was so exhausting to write just my own application for them, right? But they're reading like thousands of them. And like, I'm just like, how do you like not get tired of reading this, right? And they probably do. Like, I gotta, like, I think, to be honest, like, at some point, they gotta be just like, it's gotta turn very random, you know? They can't possibly really, they can't, like, order it. You know what I mean? Like, by, like, rank. They can't, like, exactly rank, like, every application next to each other. Yeah. Right? Because there's so many. Yeah. And, like, it's, like, it requires a lot of
They would need
reading.
to build some kind of supercomputer that could weight everything.
Like, some sort of scoring and things like that. But, I don't know. The whole process just seems so, like, crazy. Yeah. And complex to me. But, yeah. I think, But I think I'm glad that it's not so straightforward too, because there's some like, I think, well, for me, it's like, I think this process is really testing my faith. It's like really making me, like think about like, what am I putting my trust in? And these people who are tired from reading like thousands of papers, or am I putting it in God? So I think I think I'm grateful to be going through this process. And I can say that only because I also submitted my last secondary application like last Monday. So like a week ago. So I think now looking back, it's like, wow, God, I don't think I would have learned to rely on you this much, because there was also a point where I just felt like, I guess, not that I think just like very lacking trust. Yeah, very just like hopeless, because I took the MCAT 2 times and the second time I did worse. And like when I got that back, I was like, wow, even God cannot redeem this. You know, like I was like saying like, oh, I don't think like even God can redeem my situation because my score was bad. Does that make sense? Yeah, I was like, oh, like if I were God, I would give up on me. Oh my God, I'm like getting kind of emotional. No, I think I'm getting emotional because I think I am like sorry to God that I felt that like I guess just like not trusting of him, right? Just like just like so stuck in my own head, and like
that's what I mean. That's the perspective that's lost. Yeah. You know? Yeah. That's tough. Yeah. But this is why games cannot have money attached to it.
I guess so. But
the little things can't be, and this is like big. This is like life, you know? But like if games were like that, people would be feeling that. Yeah.
Right. Well, money's not attached to mine because I actually got a fee waiver to apply this year. So part of my decision to apply was like because like, oh, like I have nothing to lose because my fees are getting waived to apply. And it's usually like thousands of dollars to apply. But just like family financial circumstances, like it worked out for this year where like we made the cutoff to get the fee waiver. So I was like, okay, I think like there isn't something else that I really want to do in the next gap year. So I think I'm just going to go for this. Yeah. Like what do I have to lose, right? And like, and if anything, it'll be like a practice round of applying for the next year. Because I think I just really expected, oh, like nothing is going to come out of this maybe, you know. But at least like I'll just practice. Like I'll have to do this again all over again like next year. But if I at least have something, I can resubmit that next year too. But like the first application I turned in fully, that's the one interview I got back so far. Oh, okay. Yeah, so like that was like after 9 days I submitted. And like typically they recommend you to submit everything within 2 weeks of getting it in your email. That was the only school that I got in within the 14-day like timeline. Everything else I took so long. That's why I dragged out to last week. But yeah, so I think hearing back from that interview and then doing it and then like the things that happened afterwards, like there was like a doctor at my clinic who was like asking me about how the interview went and stuff. And like, it was kind of crazy, like how things were it seemed like they were all working out so perfectly for this one school. Like it felt like God was like reassuring me, see, I have you in my hands. Like why? You have nothing to worry about. Like, yeah. But obviously that was also like the first school, and then since then it's been really silent. And then like I got 2 rejections so far, and those are just these past 2 weeks. So I think in that gap of like silence of a few months, I was kind of very like I don't really know like what's gonna happen, you know, like
Yeah.
and I start doubting again and I like forget his God's faithfulness
Yeah.
that he showed me.
Personally,
Yeah.
I think regular spiritual disciplines that nurture that relationship with God are very important because that is life. Like we're gonna have phases when we're getting wins, phases when it's silent, where it's just losses everywhere. But if you have a good relationship with God, you're not super dependent on these external things lining up to be happy with life. And I personally think as long as you wake up in the morning and your body's healthy, there's hope.
Yeah, there's so much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel about higher education overall? Oh, sorry. Before that, I just thought of the idea that things can't be redeemed. Like you have a very nice backup trip.
Backup trip.
You have a nice backup vacation. If the
Oh, Yosemite?
yeah, you go to Yosemite with us. So.
I don't know if realistically I'll be able to go.
Oh.
Yeah, the more I think about it. It's kind of expensive, the lodging. Yeah, but also besides that, I think if I don't get into school and I can go on this trip, right, that also means I have to prepare for the reapplication cycle.
Oh, which starts at that
Yeah,
time?
like it starts in May, June. So I think it would be better to like leave that time open to like work on things again.
Yeah.
So I think I will
be good to
probably
keep
not go on
focused.
the trip.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What do you think about like higher education in general? Like women that go into higher education tending to have kids later, like after they get into school or like go through the training, because it would be really hard to have a kid while you're doing your like residency.
Yeah.
And not getting any sleep, right?
Yeah.
And then I recently had a conversation with someone who he brought up like have you heard of the Leonardo DiCaprio dating thing?
No.
He basically only dates women from 20 to 25
Okay.
because supposedly like he believes that when women get to like late 20s, like 90% of their eggs have gone like
Age,
viable.
what is it?
Like late 20s.
Yeah.
So he doesn't date women, like if they turn 25, he doesn't date them anymore because he thinks that like 20 to 25 is like the peak like fertility and like I don't know, peak beauty or something. So like yeah, I guess that biological clock issue combined with higher education, do you like what is your stance on going through that or potentially going through that one day?
I mean, honestly, I think everyone should do like what works for them. Definitely. I think for myself, I don't think I can really understand how hard like med school will be or how hard residency will be until I actually get there. Like I think that's what I realized about the application too. Like it's like people can tell me how hard this process is, but like I don't know what that is like until I actually go through it, right? So I think like once you're in it too, you can kind of figure out maybe like, can I balance this with like a new baby? So for me, I guess like within my family, my aunt is a doctor. She's a dermatologist and her husband is also a doctor. But she had her first child while she was in residency.
Ooh.
Yeah. But it was also in Korea, and that might also be different. Like, it might look different.
Okay.
But I know she was just she's very hardworking, and, like, she definitely, like, just, like, try to do everything that she can, right? Like, the way she wanted. And so, I mean, like, it worked out for her, Okay. And it's not, like, so impossible, I think.
Yeah.
So I think I'm not closed off to the idea of like women having a baby in like a residency but like I feel like I could also sound crazy saying that because I like don't know like how hard that is, right? But yeah, I guess like even right after residency it could come. But like that timeline also changes for depending on like when you decide to enter medical school, right? Like I'm 23 right now and about to turn 24. So I would be entering school if I go to school in this like upcoming fall or summer. I would be 24 and I would graduate after 4 years, so 28. Or at the end of the school year, I would be 25. So I would graduate at 5, 6. Oh, yeah, it is 8. Yeah. Is it 8? I think I'm doing it wrong. I think it's okay. So at the end of the first year, I'll be 25, and then 26, 27, 28. At the end of the fourth year, I'll be 28.
Right.
Yeah.
My age.
Yeah. And then residency will be
Three?
three minimum years,
Oh.
and then it could be longer depending on the specialty you go into. So yeah, I think I would seek advice from people from that like stage of life, like residencies. Like,
Yeah.
can you do it? Like, can you have a baby? And like, I think I would want to see those situations before. Yeah, like yeah, but I think that's like kind of far ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that thing is pretty hard to plan for
Yeah.
if you're at the
Yeah.
early stages. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to like doing or buying once you start making like career money?
Money. I don't necessarily have. I don't think I'm the type where like I haven't been like, oh, I need to make money so that I can buy this. It's never been like that. I think it's always like once I had the money, then I was like, okay, I think I can buy this, and then I got it, right?
Okay.
So I think like, yeah, like money definitely cannot be the driving factor when like going into medicine too, because there's like so much debt that you
Yeah.
like, yeah. But yeah, so I don't really, yeah, I can't really think of. I would probably buy nicer things, like maybe like a car that's nicer, or like, and probably a
Yes,
house. Yeah, but I don't. I think like I like to have nice things because they last, not necessarily because they're like known to be really nice or something, you know?
Like
Because
not just because of the hype, like it's popular, but
yeah, yeah, like
rather won't break on you.
yeah, like I just got a new iPhone, right? But like, huh? Your fork. Yeah, it needs to last. It needs to be durable. I think that's important. But I think like getting this phone, it was like with the mindset of I'm gonna use it, like hopefully for 5 years, like until it breaks or something, you know, until it's like not working well. So I think, yeah, I don't think I set a goal based on like what I want to get. Yeah. I don't really know if I have something like that.
That's probably a good thing. It means that you're not materialistic, but you're like pretty functional minded. Like you like robust things. Yeah, that's good. So like looking back on your college years, what would you say was your biggest personal growth moment in
Personal
college?
growth moment. I think definitely like in relationships, in friendship, and in dating relationship. I think I learned a lot when those things didn't go well. Yeah, because it's like it was because like I made certain choices
Are you
that.
telling me you ran the gauntlet?
No, I did not. Yeah, but I don't know. Wait, the question, can you say it again?
Yeah, what was your biggest personal growth moment in college?
Growth moment. Yeah, I think it was definitely like my latter half of college where there was like a relationship that was taking a toll on me, and like I needed to kind of like, I think like confrontation is so difficult, right? But I think like my junior year of college, I definitely learned how important that is, and like communicating things like right away before they build up more into bitterness. Like I think that's what I learned a lot. Just because it like caused a lot of misunderstanding and hurt with like friends, and then like me not communicating certain things I was uncomfortable about, like my boundaries and things like that. Like that eventually led to like I just didn't say the thing that I wanted to do earlier on, and then later I made a decision that was kind of like it like inconvenienced other people. Because it was like housing related, right? So then that becomes really tricky too, because it involves other people and like, you know. So yeah, I think like that strained a lot of friendships too, and that definitely brought out a lot of like a mix of like constructive criticisms and like sometimes like really harsh criticism. So I think like that was really difficult in the moment, but I think like that is what I grew the most from, because people don't like to tell you what your flaws are usually, right? People don't like to call people out, right? But I think that situation escalated things where like a lot of things were brought up that I was not as cognizant of about myself. And so I think as a result, I was like, oh, I didn't realize that this could hurt people. And so it helped me be more mindful of that and kind of like rebuild like how I approach different relationships from there on out.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Do you feel like,
Yeah.
have you swung the other way a little bit since then? Like you try to nip things in the bud and try to communicate more clearly, or?
I think so. Yeah. I think I like, because I learned so much from that year, like it's really helped my current housing like situation a lot. Like with my roommates, like I think like we do really communicate things as roommates first. And I thought it was kind of tacky back then to like do like those like RA roommate meeting like agreement kind of things. Yeah. But like I realized like the value in that too, because like, yeah, it's just like clearly, it's like clearly just communicating things without any like personal feelings attached, especially if you're friends with your roommate. So yeah, I think like having that space for us, like I think we did it once a year, like each school year. Just like talking over, oh, like what are some things that like bother you, or like are there any preferences, like was there anything so far in the last couple weeks that like you noticed that you wish could be done differently as we live together, and like just like coming to understand like what our preferences are, and like I think that's been really good. Yeah.
It does sound like a very lifelong lesson.
Yeah,
because it's also like Asian culture, you know, sometimes it's like the expectation is for you to read the room or like nunchi or whatever, and then sometimes that's not too clear. Like people make assumptions and it's not, or people are just too afraid to say certain things, and then like you said, it just doesn't always end up so good if you try to keep the peace in that way. Do you think you'd do anything different about college, or like how you acted in
no,
college?
I don't think so. I think like the hard stuff really happened for a good reason, like for the long run. Yeah. I think it showed me how like growth is possible and healing is possible. And so I think I'm really grateful for everything that happened.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be the person you are today.
Yeah.
You know, all your new capabilities.
Yeah.
Go through those
Yep.
sometimes harsh criticism. What do you think, or do you have a dream career, or are you open to different possibilities?
Well, right now, as I'm applying for med school, everyone asks me what type of doctor you want to be. I don't think I have a set specialty. I've been working in an ophthalmology eye clinic for like the past 2 years. And so that has definitely been really engaging. But I think I like it simply because I also got to see it, right? And there's a lot of things I haven't gotten to see yet that I think I will be able to once I'm in medical school and like going through clinical rotations. So yeah, I don't think I have that much certainty in like a dream career yet. But I generally do want to work with like a wider range of population. Like that it would be applicable, like what I learn and like what it can do can help a wide range instead of like something super specialized, like like where you see like very niche cases, like very rare cases. I think rather than that, I want to be widely useful so that like wherever I go, I can be useful to like others.
Maybe orthopedics, we all have bones.
Yeah, I guess so. But I guess like in that sense, like I'm thinking more so like primary care, like internal medicine, but also ophthalmology. Like you get to see, everybody needs an eye exam, right? Everybody has something they need to check on in their eyes, and so yeah, I think I'm pretty interested in ophthalmology too. Also because it involves a day of surgery, or like at least for the doctors at my clinic, they get to do a day of surgery, then they see patients like the other 4 days of the week. And I think that's cool to get to kind of switch from like doing surgery, because that's like more like you're in your own zone and you're like focused on doing something. And I like working with my hands, and so I think I would enjoy that, just to get a break also from like the all day long like talking to patient type of interaction too.
Yeah,
you know. And so yeah, that would be cool. But I think I'm just open to any other doctors that are not too specialized. Yeah. But if I don't get into a medical school this year, think I would be open to just like trying whatever. I don't know what that whatever is, but I think,
Maybe a
yeah.
different specialty?
No, yeah, like I could look for a clinical job in a different specialty, but I think I'm also curious. Like, I think it's almost like maybe I want to try a completely different type of job.
Yeah. Be a
You know,
barista.
like more, maybe
Tips
more like,
bank.
I'm thinking more like corporate type of
Oh,
like,
whoa.
maybe
Yeah. I was talking to Minsu and he said
Yeah.
that you could be good in business.
me.
Yeah.
What in what context?
You have a very strategic
Who?
brain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When did you guys talk about
Sunday.
Sunday?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I was telling him that
Mm-hmm.
my FG was trying to get food, but Jenna's going home because she's sleep deprived.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, yes, settlers. And he was like,
Yes.
she has a very strategic, she could do well in business.
That's
maybe
funny.
business.
I went into college actually pre-business
Oh.
and pre-med.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm going to be this really cool, like the one that stands out from the crowd that like
Last
gets a
woman.
business degree and then goes to med
MBA,
school.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of requirements to satisfy. And I think I enjoyed my like pre-med like science classes a lot more. So I stopped like taking business classes
Gotcha.
after my sophomore year. But it's not, I think like maybe, yeah, I would enjoy the work environment. But I think like part of the reason I dropped it was like I took financial accounting. The class itself was on a bell curve, but I don't think it's the difficulty of that class that deterred me. It was the professors, like the professor kind of came in like saying like I think this was supposed to be a more sophomore catered class, whereas I was a freshman. So it was like my first semester of college and I was taking this and like she was like talking about, oh, like recruiting is like recruiters are gonna come like soon and like you guys need to like make your name, like put it out there and like meet these people and like grab your opportunities right now. It was a very like different type of mindset, like of like she was just like encouraging us to network a lot, right? And I was like, oh, I don't need to do that. Like I don't really want to do that right now. Like I think I was like engaged enough as is just like learning things in the classroom and like also being involved in my extracurriculars. I was like, I don't really want to like go up to people and like need to impress them in a certain way to get in, like get a certain job. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think I didn't like that, like having to put up a face so much, you know?
Don't do marketing.
Yeah. But I think what's hard about like being pre-med is like it is hard to look at other things. Like it's just I don't even know where to start if I want to try something new, you know? Like, yeah. It's like I feel like it's not a straightforward path to get like jobs in business because it's like there's so many different types and so many different industries, you know? Yeah.
Well, I guess gap year, if you get, firsthand experience, it's probably one of the best ways to.
Right.
And then once you see how the whole machine works, it might be eye-opening how business works as well. Do you have any like non-negotiables when it comes to finding a job? Like certain, well, I guess besides marketing.
I don't know. I think like ultimately I need to definitely work around people. I can't do research, I think. Like at least not full-time research. Like I don't want to like be only by myself working on something. And I think that's similar to like desk office jobs too, right?
Yeah.
If you're not regularly interacting with people.
Do you feel like your mental can dip if you're isolated for too long?
Not necessarily. Honestly though, I think like the last year, because like every day is like patient every like today we saw like 25, 26 patients, right? But I used to work with a doctor who saw like 80 patients and like and like so yeah.
What? That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Oh
but I
gosh,
think
it's like 15-minute visits?
no, not even 15 minutes.
Oh my
Yeah, because
gosh.
they're just coming in real quick to get like a eye pressure check and then it's just I think so. I think this past year I've been really tested of my like extroverted personality. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to go home and just play Catan. Like, but I needed to like study for MCAT or like, like apply. And I think, I think there's been like some degree of burnout for sure. Yeah. I think like, I think I would have to figure out what is like the balance that I want of like because I realize like I don't think I want a full time where I like see people back to back all day long. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. But I think it's tough because I think healthcare also like because there's like limited number of providers, it will kind of come down to like needing to see as many patients as possible. You know, so I think I'm kind of worried about that and like trying to figure out like how like what does it mean to like rest, like how do you rest like with this. Yeah, but I don't think I could go like full time like not know people either, you know. Yeah.
What's the longest time that you were just alone, isolated for?
I don't know. I don't think I've like necessarily tried to measure out the time that I've been alone. Like I've definitely probably had a day where I like just stay alone. Oh, COVID probably like when I was isolated for like not so I got it twice, right? But the first time was like still when it was like very highly regulated, and so like at Emory like we were sent to the Emory Conference Hotel. The school like sent us off to isolate there, and so I think I was in there I think I started on a Thursday and I came out the next Friday, so it was like little over a week of just like isolation, and that
Nobody?
There
was nobody?
Yeah, those. Of course.
Damn.
I was like just in the hotel room by myself. Like I like FaceTime people. That's when I actually learned about online Catan and like played with people. But
even in that isolation, you had pretty dependable connection with people. Like you had people that were.
There are other people who got it like with me. So like we had kind of like called here and there. But I think like there were moments where we would hang up and I would just like feel so like trapped. Yeah.
I think that's the worst is like if you're isolate like that and then you don't have people on a call basis.
Yeah.
Because texting isn't real time.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that like real time conversation.
Yeah.
What would you say, I guess switching out of all this heavy real life work, what would you say is a book, movie, or experience that recently shaped your perspective?
I shared about this at our family group cabin trip because the question was, when was the last time you cried?
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
So the movie that made me cry was Elemental.
Oh,
Do you know?
Yes. Yeah.
The Disney Pixar movie.
The
And
water, fire people.
yeah. And I thought that was just going to be really like a cute kid movie with like just like involving the elements, right? But then the theme underneath it, and I think I saw the director's last name was Song, so I think I looked him up, and I think he's Korean,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but so I think like watching that movie with the theme of like immigration, right, and like living as a immigrant child, and like the fire girl, the main girl was an immigrant daughter. There was a lot of things I like related with from that, and like the scene that made me cry initially was where the girl's parents, when they were leaving their home, like Fireland country or whatever, like the parents' father, so the main girl's grandfather, right, as he was sending them off, he had his arms crossed and a very stern look on his face, and like the narration behind that scene, like they were like saying that you're supposed to return someone's bow to show like respect towards one another, like, but like the father didn't return the bow to the son that was leaving. And so that made me super emotional because that reminded me of when my grandpa also was so like disapproving of my parents leaving. So I came to America when I was 8 years old.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was born in Korea. So, but I remember like particularly like being in my grandparents' house, like in their living room, and like my grandpa was yelling at my dad basically like for like an hour or two, like, and like we were all just like sitting there like not saying anything, like my grandma, my mom, me, probably my younger brother was there too, and we're just like yeah, there are a lot of silences in between. But my grandpa was like, "How are you gonna survive? Like, how are you gonna do this? Like, you know, like, and like just like, yeah, he was just very upset with like this decision. And so yeah, I think that made me very sad. You know, seeing that scene and like the heaviness, the guilt and burden that my dad had to carry, like while coming here. I think like that made me really sad, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the movie kind of like triggered that. And then the girl also saying things like, I think like her also realizing like what she wants to do was not what her parents always expected for her to do. But I think like what's different in that scenario though is like I don't think my parents are necessarily pushing me to pursue medicine. Like of course like my mom loves like she does like it that I'm like pursuing it, but ultimately I think I was kind of like trying to rebel against them by like being pre-business. I was like, no, I'm gonna find something else that I really like that's not medicine just because you told me to do it, kind of thing. But then I think the more I took classes, I did end up liking this path and like the things you learn. So yeah, that's how I'm here. But that movie was really good. Yeah, it was very, and it just like it wasn't just focused on that family either. It was also representative of like how there was like different cultures, different races
How
in America.
people treat people.
Yeah, right. And like, yeah. And like who's known for being good at sports and like who's known for being like rich and like comes from certain families. Like I think it handled those things really well. Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciated that movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess in closing, I guess we could end with I call it TIL.
TIL.
Reddit calls it TIL, but it's Today I Learned.
Today I Learned.
I guess today I learned two things. I learned of a word called seigniorage.
Seigniorage?
Seigniorage?
How do you spell that?
It's spelled weird. It's SEIGNORAGE.
SEIGNORAGE.
Seigniorage.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even think
I
I'll remember that.
I saw the spelling and it looked really weird. So then I like looked it up and then apparently it's like when the government creates money, they profit. There's like there's a way that they profit. I don't know too much about it, but
Where'd you see that word?
It was on this chatbot. AI. It was on an AI chatbot.
Oh, chatbot.
Yeah, and it just had like suggestions. So that's where I saw it. And the other thing I saw was also from the chatbot. There was a Harvard study that showed there's an ability to reverse aging in animal cells without uncontrolled growth, like cancer. So that is pretty crazy.
Yeah, reversing aging. That's like all the movies. Like
yeah.
Kind of sounds scary.
Well, dystopian sounding.
Yeah, but also that's probably just like a cell, and that's like one type
in
of
a
cell.
Controlled environment with no autoimmune interference. Yeah, so we'll see. But how about you? Cool. Anything that stands out about today?
I also learned a new word called nowism. I don't really know if it's in the dictionary, but it was used in like my devotional book today.
Okay.
But it was basically like the devotional topic was about how we know that Jesus died for us in the past. Like Christians know that Jesus died for them in the past, right? And like Christians live with the hope of the future, like that you're gonna have salvation, you'll live in eternity with God, right? But then we easily lose sight of now, like how God gives us Jesus now to be with us, like through the Holy Spirit. And like we forget like our current struggles, like God is with us right now too. You know, it's not just about like what he did for us in the past or the future. And it's like easy for us to lose sight of like the things we are struggling with, you know, like, and like think that, oh, like I just have to wait around until like we get eternity. But no, like God is going to walk with us now. So like they were saying like we need to spread this gospel of nowism. That's what they were saying. Yeah, it's in a devotional book called New Morning Mercies. Yeah, but that was like a good reminder of just like being in the present, and I think it's very relevant to where I am right now, because I'm waiting for like this like uncertain future of, or at least the immediate future with like med school apps. Like I don't know what's gonna happen. My lease will end May 11th, and I'm not really sure like if I should like get a new apartment in Atlanta or like go home, or like should I go somewhere. But I can't make any of those decisions until like school decisions come out, and that could be as late as May or June. So I'm probably gonna have to consider some like short-term leases. But I'm really living just like day by day. I can't like plan too far ahead. But I think it's good because I'm learning not to over plan for the future and like worry about things that already happened.
There's a lot of value in the now. Sometimes it's hard to see like this. You know, could have easily not happened.
Just enjoy this moment and what I'm given now and make the most out of this, what I have.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Yes.